At the end of the Riverrun siege in A Feast for Crows, Jaime Lannister achieves what looks like a clean result. The castle yields. There is no sack. The Crown can say the Riverlands are settling down. But if that were really true, Brynden Tully would be dead, captured, or kneeling before a fray. He is none of those things. So the question is not whether Jaime took Riverrun. He did. The question is whether he ended anything, or whether he simply moved the conflict somewhere else. Hello everyone, and welcome to Storyteller's Codex. Here we delve deep into the rich lore of the Lord of the Rings, a song of ice and fire, and the vast worlds beyond. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. When Jaime reaches Riverrun, the war is technically over. Robb Stark is dead. The Red Wedding has broken the Northern Campaign. The Freys have been granted Riverrun as their prize. On paper, that should end resistance. But the Riverlands are not calm. Villages are burned, lords are dead or displaced, and the Freys are despised. The text makes this clear in multiple chapters before Jaime even arrives. The small folk whisper. The Brotherhood without banners is active. Freys begin disappearing. Jaime understands the fragility of the situation. When he considers the possibility of storming the castle, he thinks about what that would mean. He does not want another massacre tied to his name. Earlier in the book, he reflects that he is not his father. He remembers Tywin's methods, the reigns of Castamere, the destruction of houses Rain and Tarbeck, and he does not want to repeat that pattern. There is a line in his internal monologue where he considers how history remembers men. Jaime is trying, at this stage of the story, to become something different from the Kingslayer everyone thinks he is, so his objective becomes narrow: end the siege, avoid bloodshed, deliver the castle intact to the Freys. The problem is that Brynden Tully is not defending Riverrun because he expects victory. He is defending it because surrender would mean something larger. Brynden Tully's position is consistent from the moment Jaime begins negotiations. He rejects the Freys' claim outright. In the text, he calls them oath-breakers and butchers. Those words matter. They are not insults. They are a judgment on the Red Wedding itself. From Brynden's perspective, the Freys forfeited any legitimacy the moment they murdered their guests under their own roof. If he opens Riverrun's gates to them, he is validating that outcome. This connects directly to Robb Stark's kingship. Robb had named Edmure's unborn child as heir to Riverrun under his northern crown. Brynden sees himself as defending that continuity. If Riverrun passes cleanly into Frey hands, then the Stark-Tully alliance ends not just militarily but symbolically. This is similar to other moments in A Song of Ice and Fire where surrender is about more than survival. Think of Stannis refusing to bend the knee to Joffrey because he believes Joffrey is illegitimate. Or think of Ned Stark confessing falsely to save Sansa, but knowing the confession changes the meaning of events. Brynden will not make that kind of concession. He prepares to hold the castle even when relief is unlikely. He refuses safe conduct that would leave Riverrun in Frey hands. His resistance is not strategic optimism. It is a refusal to legitimize what happened at the Twins. Jaime understands that he cannot outlast Brynden through force without paying a cost the Crown cannot afford. So he chooses negotiation backed by intimidation. When Edmure Tully is brought before him, Jaime escalates deliberately. The text gives us his threat directly. He tells Edmure that if the castle does not yield, he will trebuchet your infant son over these walls. It is not phrased as a metaphor. It is not softened. It is meant to be horrifying. Now here is where the internal monologue matters. Jaime reflects on oaths. He thinks about Catelyn Stark. He thinks about the promise he made to return her daughters. He also thinks about the kind of reputation he carries, the man who killed his king. There is a contrast here with Tywin Lannister. Tywin would have made the threat and carried it out if necessary. Jaime makes the threat because he knows Edmure will believe him. The difference is that Jaime does not want to become that man. So what happens is this. Jaime secures surrender through fear, not through assault. He avoids a massacre, but the surrender is not born of agreement or reconciliation. It is born of coercion. And coercion does not resolve hatred, it freezes it. Edmure Tully is placed in a position where every option costs him something. He tries to defer to Brynden's authority, saying the Blackfish commands the defence. Jaime refuses that distinction. He reframes the decision around Edmure's unborn child. Edmure knows what the Freys are capable of. He knows what the Lannisters have done in this war. When Jaime describes the threat, he does not dismiss it as a bluff. Eventually, Edmure orders the gates opened. The text describes the surrender plainly. The Tully banner comes down. The Freys take possession. Jaime achieves exactly what he was sent to accomplish. Riverrun is handed over without a sack, but the detail that changes everything comes immediately after. Brynden Tully is not among the captives. He has already escaped, and that means Jaime has taken the castle, but he has not captured the man who represents resistance. When the surrender is completed, Jaime expects to take Brynden Tully into custody. Instead, he's told that the Blackfish escaped. The text makes this clear. Brynden slipped out through the Watergate and swam the Red Fork under cover of darkness. The castle has fallen, but the man who embodied its resistance is gone. Jaime is visibly irritated. He wanted finality. He wanted to be able to report that Riverrun was pacified. Instead, he has a castle without the symbol of its defiance. This matters because Brynden is not just a garrison commander. He is the last public Tully who openly rejects Frey rule. As long as he lives, the narrative of resistance continues. We have seen this before in the series. When Stannis survives the Blackwater, his cause survives with him. When Aegon the Conqueror's enemies died, their resistance ended with them. Leadership matters. Jaime has removed Brynden from the walls. He has not removed him from the conflict. The Freys inherit Riverrun, but they inherit it under a cloud. Throughout A Feast for Crows, Frey men are described as targets. The Brotherhood without banners hangs them. Small folk do not trust them. Even other houses look at them differently after the Red Wedding. The text makes it clear that fear, not loyalty, secures their position. There is no scene in which the Riverlords rally to Frey authority. There is only compliance. This is important. Holding a castle does not equal ruling a region. The Freys can occupy Riverrun. They cannot erase the memory of how they earned it. Compare this to how Tywin consolidated power after the fall of the Rains. He did not just take Castamere, he obliterated resistance so thoroughly that no one dared challenge him again. The Freys do not command that kind of fear, they command resentment. So what they gain is stone and title. What they inherit is instability. From Jaime's internal perspective, Riverrun is a turning point. He avoids storming the castle. He does not massacre the defenders. He negotiates. He tries to behave as a knight who keeps order rather than spreading destruction. Earlier in the book, he reflects on oaths and what they mean. He thinks about the white cloak he once wore and the vows he broke. At Riverrun, he is consciously choosing restraint. That is real. It is character development. But the political consequences do not align neatly with Jaime's personal growth. The Riverlands are still fractured, the Freys are still despised, the Brotherhood is still active, and Brynden Tully is still free. So Jaime achieves something meaningful for himself. He does not achieve closure for the region. Those are two different measures of success. If Riverrun were truly settled, we would expect the Riverlands to stabilise afterward. They do not. The Brotherhood without banners continues its campaign. Lady Stoneheart is hanging Freys and Lannister men. Rumours of disappearances spread. Travel remains dangerous. The Freys' control is confined largely to their garrisons. They rely on Lannister backing. They do not command affection or voluntary loyalty from the surrounding lords, and Brynden's escape feeds that instability. As long as he lives, there is a figure around whom opposition can gather. Even if he commands no army at first, he represents unfinished business. This is similar to how Daenerys Targaryen in Essos discovers that taking a city does not mean controlling it. Slaver's Bay remains volatile after each conquest, because underlying loyalties and grievances remain unresolved. Jaime's Riverrun operates on the same principle. The castle changes hands, the political problem remains. Jaime Lannister accomplished what he set out to do. He ended the siege, he prevented a massacre, he delivered Riverrun to the Freys intact. But when we look at what follows, the victory is narrower than it appears. Brynden Tully escapes. The Freys inherit a hostile region. The Brotherhood continues its campaign. The Riverlands remain unstable. So the question was never whether Jaime took Riverrun. The question was whether taking Riverrun ended anything. The text suggests it did not. It simply shifted the struggle from inside the walls to everywhere else. If you are interested in The Lord of the Rings or A Song of Ice and Fire, click one of the links on the screen to dive deeper into the lore. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.